joining us, and we welcome to the program State Senator Angela Hill, represents District 40, serves as the chair of the County Affairs Committee and vice chair of Accountability, Efficiency, and Transparency Committee. Senator Hill, welcome to Middays. Thanks for coming on.
Glad to be here, Gerard.
All right, so let's, I know we got the legislative session about to get underway here in less than a month. Let's recap some of your accomplishments legislatively, particularly in the last session. I know you had a focus on animal abuse, something you've been championing for some time, finally got something through. First, tell us about that, and then to that end, just yesterday, I believe, right, an arrest of a dogfighting ring, some 29 canines in Panola County.
Yeah, our dogfighting statute is really strong. That statute was updated in 2018 to make it even stronger. And if you're involved in dogfighting in the state of Mississippi, if you have equipment to fight dogs, if you're a spectator at a dogfight, if you possess or own or have any of the paraphernalia for dogfighting, you can get charged with a felony. And so I want all our law enforcement officers across the state, before you go on a scene where you have a suspected dogfight, just know that you have the state statute behind you to arrest anybody on that property. Because if they're there, if they're on that property and they're about to fight dogs or started fighting dogs or preparing to fight dogs, anybody on that property can go to jail. So it's a huge problem still. It takes a depraved individual to do this to animals for profit or for kicks or whatever, but they need to go to jail.
Unbelievable. And so, to your knowledge, Senator, has anybody been arrested and convicted and sentenced to jail under these statutes?
I think one case comes to mind in Natchez a while back. But, yes, there have been some arrests and some convictions, I believe, because like I said, our dogfighting law was strong even before 2018.
Yeah.
I think it was Senator DeBar and maybe Senator Deary and some more of them worked on making it even stronger, where you put all that paraphernalia language in there. So if they have all the paraphernalia to fight, that's grounds for considering them, for. And the things that I got passed after Lieutenant Governor Hoseman came into the Senate, the first year we got this animal cruelty law upgraded, because prior to, that year, you could basically set a dog on fire or a cat on fire or chop their head off in front of a police officer, and they could only charge them with a misdemeanor.
Yeah.
And no matter how many dogs or cats were, somebody was committing aggravated cruelty, this heinous type stuff, we could only charge one count. So thankfully we got this passed to where now law enforcement can charge a count for each animal, whether it's simple or aggravated cruelty. And if you're committing aggravated cruelty, even if it's a first offense, you can get a felony. And some prosecutors just won't go as far as they need to do something with these people. But there have been some arrests and court dates all over the state since we've upgraded this law. Then we got Buddy's law passed. It basically said if it's a kid in youth court that's under the age to charge as an adult, they're going to get mandatory psychiatric evaluation and counseling and try to figure out, what's wrong to cause a small child, a child under 12 or under, to act out in this manner against a dog or cat. So hopefully that will stop some future serial killers, because the hope is that we can save the child that's going in this direction by getting them some help, and also, save the animals too.
Well, I think it's all...
We all know that Luke Woodham started with his dog and his mother.
Yeah, Luke Woodham, of course, for those that don't remember, he was the one that committed some serial type cruelty, crimes, and he's kind of well known for that, unfortunately.
The Pearl High School shooting will never be forgotten in Mississippi. And when you look at the statistics, pretty much every serial killer starts out
with animals.
The FBI has those statistics out there. The National Society of District Attorneys has those statistics out there. So that's what we're looking at. And, now that those have gotten a felony for aggravated cruelty, now at least they have a record so that when they want to go to apply in a nursing home or a daycare, something will pop up in their background if they've been convicted for aggravated cruelty to an animal, because I don't want them around my grandma or my grandkids.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, Jeffrey Dahmer, I think, as well, had a history of that before he went on his rampage.
And pretty much every one of these school and church shooters that we've had in recent years, if you go deep back in their background, you can find it. Because I did a lot of searching on some of these school shooters and church shooters, and you could pretty much find animal cruelty in all their backgrounds, and that's it's a key element to predict their future behavior.
Well, it's good legislation. I think it's good law, and we appreciate that. We want none of the sort in the state of Mississippi. Appreciate that. Let's talk about the upcoming session. What's on your radar? What are you going to be working on?
Well, I'm extremely concerned that the legislative branches, both in Washington, D.C. and in the states, basically their power has been minimized by both state rulemaking and federal rulemaking. And that's done, through the Administrative Procedures Act, and then sometimes they don't even go through that. They just, pass the rule, put it in the Federal Register or whatever. So the Biden administration is basically ruling the country right now and ruling the states through these federal agencies and federal rulemaking, because once they pass those rules, they're enforced just like they were a law or a statute. Mm-hmm. And the same way in state agencies. And that's how we lose our freedoms, when those things come through the back door through federal or state rulemaking and don't go through the legislative bodies, but yet they're enforced with the same power. They can fine you if you violate it. They can take you to court. So, I have been filing bills for a couple of years to require our state agencies or boards or whomever, commissions, to basically email the lawmakers if you're putting out a rule for public comment that you're trying to get passed in your public body. If you're going to send that out to the Secretary of State for public comment to make it and put it into your rule book, we at least need to be notified in the legislature, because we don't go and check the Secretary of State's website every day to see who's putting out a rule that will eventually, hold the force of law. And, if we don't know it's happening, many times it'll pass and get put in without our knowledge or our comment. So I think it's just a good, simple, transparent bill that if these bodies are going to make rules that are enforced like law, you at least need to email your legislators and let us look at it and see if we need to weigh in on what you're doing in these agencies. Because like I said, this rulemaking authority was given to these bodies a long time ago before I ever got elected. And so they're calling all the shots, or most of the shots, a lot of times without even going through the legislature. And the Biden administration is basically putting its foot on the throat of the states with all their transgender agenda, anti-parental rights through the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, their rulemaking through the Department of Education, the Department of Human Services, basically trying to make every state like Gavin Newsom's got, California, to where, they want to put all these services, mental health and otherwise, into the school systems, and they want the parents to not even be notified, and they want to be able to have full control of the kids. And that sounds like it's over the top, but just look at it. It's absolutely true. That's what they're doing, and they can target red states just like the blue states are doing and try to make us comply because they threaten our funds and put these rules through. So that's my concern, is the states need to push back. And if it's something that the federal government does that violates our conscience or violates the Constitution or violates our state statute, parental rights or otherwise, then we don't need to comply. I mean, the 10th Amendment says that we do what we do that's not reserved to the federal government. If the federal government is not explicitly called out in the Constitution to do something, then those powers are reserved for the states. And they're just basically buying the states off and making us have, no authority over what goes on if we continue in that direction.
Have you presented this proposal to the lieutenant governor and your colleagues in the Senate? I'm not sure what committee that would flow through, but whoever that might be that.
The bill that I had, just to simply email notification to the legislators for our agencies, was in accountability. It was in my committee that I'm vice chair of, just never seem to get enough traction to get it taken up. Sometimes the things that make the most sense, and they're the simplest things that are just common sense, are the ones that they don't get taken up because there's no lobbyists up there.
Yeah.
We might represent 59,000 people, but a lobbyist, unfortunately, can get the attention sometimes more than we can. But I do believe that once people stop and think about it, including the lieutenant governor, who may not even be privy to this bill, I think they will think it's a good idea.
We got a break right now, but if you can hang around, we got a short segment left, and we can keep talking.
Sure.
We got Senator Angela Hill on the line with us. It's middays. We're in the Element Well studio. Stay with us. Coming right back with the senator. Days we're visiting with State Senator Angela Hill. So, Senator, coming up in the next session, what I'm hearing a lot out there from Mississippians is they want to see some work on some form of tax reform, and that ranges anywhere from reducing or elimination of the sales tax on groceries to, I know, the governor's priority of fully eliminating the income tax. We've sort of made what I call a down payment on income tax elimination by reducing ultimately over the next 3 years to one single flat tax bracket of 4%, having already eliminated the 4% bracket, the 3% bracket. That's in the rearview mirror, and then the 5% would come down to 4%. It's a big issue. What do you think about that in the coming session?
I think it's a great idea to continue reducing the state income tax. I have no qualms about reducing the grocery tax either, but you have to realize that a lot of the money that the cities run on are coming from the grocery tax. Mm-hmm. They get 18.5% back in sales tax revenue that's spent in the cities, and a lot of Walmarts and Kroger's and all these grocery stores that are in the cities. The amount of food that's bought and sales tax paid on the foods is going back to those cities. So the cities would probably take a pretty good hit as far as tax revenue on groceries. We'd have to figure out what to do to keep them from raising property taxes if they lose that. And I haven't looked at how much would be designated food taxes to each city. I haven't seen those numbers. It might not be as big as I think it is, but that would be a concern as to how that would affect cities. Now, if the state eliminated the income tax, that has nothing to do with your local governments or how they run. That would just be a state issue, and the state would have to, figure out how that revenue would be regenerated. And typically, what we saw with all the stimulus money that was put into the country through COVID and all this infrastructure stuff, we saw our sales tax collections be extremely high. We saw our casino revenue taxes be extremely high. Mm-hmm. So typically, if people have more money to spend, if inflation does not continue to go, out of control, if we kind of can get stabilized, I think you would see people spend a whole lot more if they had more of their income tax money in their pocket, and therefore you'd probably get a pretty good bit more sales tax revenue to replace some of that loss.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be an issue that will certainly be debated, and it's going to come up probably originating, I would think, in the House. Let's talk about the citizen ballot initiative process, something that at this point we don't have in the state of Mississippi. Hear that all the time from the folks that they'd like to see that restored. Your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are the most ignorant thing that we could do is put the ballot initiative exactly like it was back into the law, to where you could amend the Constitution and put unlimited amounts of information or changes into the Constitution with only up to 21 words on the ballot. Yeah. That was our old ballot initiative, and everybody complains about legislators passing laws like, Nancy Pelosi. You got to pass it to see what's in it. Mm-hmm. So I don't think we need a ballot initiative restored that you got to pass it to see what's in it. When up to 21 words would be on the ballot, but yet you can put unlimited pages into the Constitution. I think that I could tolerate something that required the actual citizens to read what they were voting on.
Yeah. A couple of minutes left. PERS is something we've talked a lot about here. That's been a buzz somewhat at the Capitol, certainly since the last session ended. The PERS board, folks involved in those matters at the Capitol have been working with them. What do you think?
Well, we know that long term it's unsustainable as it is. I've made a commitment for people that are vested or already retired to not, upset their apple cart for what they've already planned for their future on. But the people that are coming in or that aren't vested, there's going to have to be some changes because the cost of living adjustment that's given every year that compounds upon itself over and over and over. Back when Haley Barber did the study on PERS, that amount that the PERS was going into the red each year was pretty much equal to that COLA payout. And you do get to the point to where, as you need less and less people to perform tasks and you get more technology and things, you can get upside down. You have more people that you're paying out than people that are putting in from the bottom. And so it's a complex situation, but I think it's something that has to be looked at because, how long can the state keep putting money in there to cover the cities and the schools and all the employer costs whenever the employer portion, PERS is saying you got to raise that employer portion higher and higher to make ends meet, and they don't want to raise the employee contribution, and the state has to keep eating that money over and over and over.
Yeah. Senator, appreciate your insight and for joining us today, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you some more, and if nothing else, we'll see you at the Capitol, and between now and then, have a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holidays.
You too, Gerard. Thanks for having me.
You bet. We're coming right back, folks. It's time for Fox News and Super Talk News. Don't forget Alyssa Arbuckle, multimedia journalist with Super Talk Mississippi News at 11.